All right, people. Let's see if we can get Louise back on. Yeah, here she is. It's perfectly all right with me if you want to turn your camera off for any reason, just because we're doing what we're doing. If any of your kids are around, it would be great to engage them, but they might be busy doing homework or activities and whatnot. So I tried to make this so that it would show up reasonably well on a phone in case any of you were on a phone. So let's just see what happens. Stop it. Start from the beginning. Maybe not. Okay. Joe's doing homework. Yeah. tis the season. All right, let's see what I got here. Let me see what happens when I start the slideshow. You tell me whether or not. Can you see that
It says trips.
with benefits?
Yes.
Okay, can you see the whole thing?
All I see is oh well, it just went to a next slide.
Okay, can you see from the top all the way to the bottom?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So we're recording. I'm gonna keep this short because I have a 7:30 meeting and you guys have other things to do. What I'm trying to propose, and I've been slow getting my head wrapped around how to do this, is the elements of what I call robust trips. So trips that have purpose and have experiences, but basically involve some kind of camping, even if it's cabin camping. We had cabin camping, for instance, when we went to Lancaster County to do scuba. Tent camping, of course, is pretty standard. Backpacking, we've done once, and we can probably do even better. And even a possible survival or semi-survival opportunity. Um, the goal is to have varied challenges and experiences, not just go set up camp, cook, hang around, do something, then cook, then hang around, then do something, and then cook, and then hang around and go to bed. You want to be in different environments, different locations. Some of them will have prepared activities where there are people leading, challenges or leading things at their facilities. We're hoping to spark, the camaraderie that comes with experiencing different challenges and all the unexpected things that are likely to happen. Um, Balancing between 1 hour and up to 3 hours if it's a really great opportunity in terms of distance and costs. We'll try not to have trip after trip after trip have a premium price. Because some trips we can do relatively inexpensively. We don't have to pay high rental fees or anything like that. And it's just a matter of food. Um, like to have something planned every month, and I don't have something already pegged in each month. So, there are other opportunities that might pop up, or you might have some good ideas, but some may happen close together. And the idea of the frequency is that when a scout misses a trip, it won't be forever until another trip. Because, these things happen. And if you miss a trip after trip after trip, you kind of lose your momentum in terms of, how we operate. There's a lot of things going on in a trip. For instance, when do you focus on group, the needs of the group? When do you focus on the needs of the individual? How do you communicate with each other to get things done? How does the youth leadership manage to uh, actually lead rather than just expecting the adults to make everything happen? Um, Making time. I realize that for the most part, the scouts rarely know their own calendar. And that leads me to ask the question, would it be practical and beneficial to you as a parent and to the scouts themselves to be using the calendars on their phones. I mean, if we're going to be, interacting with the phones, let's make sure that the phones are serving our own, our own agenda, which is, hey, is everybody available the weekend of, or who's available the weekend of November 8th, 9th, and 10th? And typically over the years, I've had kids say, oh, I want to go on that, and then have their parents say, can't do that. That's the weekend of such and such. But that's up to you, whether or not you encourage them to put more things on their calendars. Otherwise, how do we find the best dates? And it seems to work best that communicating with the parents is the way to find the dates that are going to work for a reasonable number of kids. Our enrollment was 12 up until Friday, up until Saturday. Now that Mark has aged out and moved over to the young adult side, we have 11 scouts in our troop. And I would say that a trip with 5 or more of them makes sense. So 5 or more scouts on a trip makes sense. 4 or fewer, it just doesn't kind of meet the threshold of getting a lot of benefit to people. So, timing is going to be important. We're not going to try and discuss timing tonight because we're making this a short meeting. The opportunity to repeat the activities that go into having an outing. And this doesn't even count, there may be something cool going on at the Constitution Center that doesn't require an overnight stay. There may be an opportunity to visit a college or a trade school that might be just a one shot, one day thing, and it doesn't involve all of this gear and all of this preparation and all that. But the things that they get good at if they do it more often is packing, setting up camp, doing various kinds of cooking, being comfortable no matter the weather conditions, being dry when it's wet out, being warm when it's cold out, being cool when it's hot out. Managing all the things it takes to be comfortable. There's absolutely no point in my mind of a scout being uncomfortable on a trip. With proper preparation, they should be able to sleep warm and dry, bug free for the most part, full bellies and all of that sort of thing. So, don't think that I'm trying to drag these kids out on some kind of, Bear Grylls trek or something like that. The opportunity to teach others, hopefully, as we get more and more scouts joining, there'll be somebody new on each trip. And it'll be an excellent opportunity for the older scouts and the young adult scouts to teach others, learning to break down from camp and put away the gear without all of that landing on basically me. So putting the gear away might even have to be something that happens a couple of days after the trip, after we get back, but not necessarily at the next meeting. We'll give some of that to the boys to decide. Right now, I'm just talking about plans for 17-19. I'll talk about 13-13 at the end when I have a minute. Here are some possible activities. And the reason I wanted to get this underway tonight, and thank you very much for being able to drop everything and do this for a hot minute. We've been invited to the Lumberjack Games, which is a weekend that is hosted by Troop 512, which some of you know is my husband's troop. They're located in Springfield, Delaware County. And this is an annual event that they do that's run by the adults. And it has lots of competitions and things like the 2-man saw and relays and 1v1 games and all kinds of fun stuff like that. It's going to be at Fort Washington State Park, which is real close. This is actually the weekend that we had been invited to the commando games. And although I think the boys would have truly enjoyed the commando games, I think the lumberjack games is a nice alternative. And I'd need to know by Wednesday if we have 5 or more scouts who would be interested in going on that. So just keep that in mind. The rest are not on a calendar. I have a good friend that I grew up with, Alan Maddox. He has a specialty in taking young people into natural caves, not the showcase caves with the lights and the the glitzy guide and the the gift shop and all of that. These are caves that he has taken his venture crew through. They come in various levels of difficulty, and he's proposing Piper Cave, which is near Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. And he gave me a list of places that we could camp within 20 miles or so of the caving site. And so this would be, I think he only charges $25 per person. And it doesn't really matter what time of year that we do this, other than getting access to the cave. Because underground it's always 54 degrees. So but I think for the camping part of it, we might want to not do this in the wintertime. So that's an opportunity that we have with a BSA trained guide. Winter camping is one of the things that is on the list for Camping Merit Badge. And so being able to have a winter camping experience is important. Last time we went winter camping, we only had 2 scouts go with us. And they did just fine. Probably we do this at Camp Hart. The leaders of Troop 512, the ones that are running the lumberjack games, most of them are fire safety, range safety officers or firearms instructors. And if we coordinated with them, we could get extended use of the Camp Hart rifle range. And that would be fun for 2 reasons. One is most of the time, if you go to a weekend event and they have the rifle range open, they have like 50 or 60 scouts that want to turn to shoot 5 bullets, 5.22 bullets. And then it's like, okay, move on. It's more fun if you have an opportunity to actually start to succeed. We have some people who have taken rifle shooting merit badge in the past and will probably take it in the future. And the hardest part of passing the merit badge is being able to get a decent score on the targets. I don't actually remember what the score things are, but this is also, I think, an important opportunity for everyone to have firearm safety training, because the casual and accidental use of firearms is still a leading hazard for young people, and demystifying how firearms work, how ammunition works, why certain safety things have to be observed is better, in my mind, than trying to keep everybody away from all firearms, because that's not going to happen. You don't actually have that opportunity. So I would like to combine winter camping at Camp Hart, which is close by, with a rifle shooting one. There would be a cabin. We would rent a cabin for gatherings and food and stuff like that. And the only part that would be really super, super cold weather stuff would be sleeping outside in a tent. And that could be for the youth only, and the adults could share the cabin. So, we're not trying to earn a merit badge, but they are. Cope and Climbing Weekend. Camp Okanagan has an arrangement with a place called Hellerick's Family Farm, which is also kind of near Doylestown. And they have lots of things going on. It's like a nature amusement park. But one of the areas they have is this aerial adventure that you can probably see in the picture. And they give the scouts who are coming from the Occonecan weekend a slight discount to do all the climbing elements that they want to try up to whatever their challenge level is. It would start off with something that we call COPE. That's a BSA term. And it means challenging outdoor personal experience. And that's where the instructors give team building and low ropes challenges, and then possibly a chance to go up and down the climbing wall that they have at Occonecan. It would not include the actual rock face that they use for climbing Merit Badge in the summertime. We're not going up the high rock face, but this Hellerick's Family Farm looks like a good alternative. It was highly recommended by some folks I talked to at Occonecan, and we all pretty much know where Occonecan is. Since we've had our first taste of backpacking, I think it's important for us to follow that up with another backpacking experience where we're a little bit more wilderness. Turns out that there are several trails at Resica Falls in the Poconos that are on the property of the camp, but are back in the back where summer camp doesn't actually happen. And the goal of that would be, first of all, to bring lightweight food. I was super impressed with how the kids and the adults handled the backpacking trip weekend before last. I do realize that the food choices in trying to represent all the food groups or whatever, the food choices are not what backpackers consider trail food. Trail food almost always is dehydrated. Instead of avocados and grapes and big fat bagels and stuff like that, there would be more modest food. And we could either have everybody bring their own food and cook it for themselves, or we could agree on a menu that would meet everybody's needs. The feedback I got from the backpacking trip was the trail was too long. There was nothing to do. We didn't take any of the side trips because we just kept slogging toward our eventual destination. And camping Merit Badge only requires 4 miles. So if we set up at Resica Friday night, had a nice bonfire in camp, set off on Saturday, took a 2-mile hike, relaxed, did some activities in the woods, camped out there, cooked and whatnot, and then backpacked back to our camping site. That would cover an awful lot of camping Merit Badge, which is a Eagle required badge, and it's hard to get. Something we haven't done in a few years is our wilderness survival. Actually, I think I would call it Wilderness Survival Light. There's a state park near Hamburg, Pennsylvania, where there are sites. They're basically, I think they're either free or $1 to stay there. And it being a state, I'm sorry, it's Weiser State Forest. I should fix that. It's a state forest, not a state park. So a state park has certain amenities that are there for the normal public. The state forest is a much more primitive arrangement, and we would bring minimal gear. We wouldn't bring any tents. We'd bring tarps and rope and other things, maybe some bug shelters or bug screens or something like that. And the scouts would band together and create their own shelters, either 2 or 3 of them together or by themselves. The cooking would be relatively primitive. We wouldn't be doing Dutch oven cooking or, building a big bonfire. The conditions would be primitive. There are no, there literally are no toilets there. There is a spring from which we can get drinking water, but we have to purify it. And we would spend our time making our camp self-sufficient by building things with the materials at hand. A nice little add-on is whenever we've gone to Weiser State Forest, on the way home, we stop at Cabela's and wander around and see all the stuffed animals and just goggle at all the cool camping gear and setups and things like that. So that's kind of the bonus on the way home. It's like, we're going to stop at Cabela's and have a good time. Two things that I didn't get a chance to put on here. One of them is the Klondike Derby. We haven't been to the Klondike in 2 years, I believe. The Klondike is an event that is held at probably Camp Delmont. I'm not sure. One of our camps, and it is a winter games competition. And one of the things that we tried to do 2 years ago was we tried to build a lightweight sled to carry all of the gear, and it didn't hold up. It wasn't tough enough to hold up to the conditions of being dragged over hill and dale. But the teams did a really good job of sticking with it. They had team challenges, they had individual challenges. It's really a good time. I would love to get started now with some older scouts and some parents to build a sled. We have a set of skis that we can use underneath it, to build a sled that will fit in my car. The sleds that we used to have, or that we inherited from other troops, were too tall to fit in the hatch of my car. But if we built our own sled and did all that, we could really rock those games. And that is probably a January event. It's probably either the second to last weekend in January or the last weekend in January, and it's relatively local. It's not going to be all the way up at Resica. Back in the day when we used to have snow, the best thing was if the Klondike Derby had snow and the skis had something to slide over. Climate change kind of put the kibosh on that, but you can't have everything. All right, now let's see. I've lost my, hold on a second. I lost my slideshow. Close that. If I do this. Great. Now what? I'm down desktop too. I don't know whether you're seeing my screen or whether you're seeing my granddaughter. You guys seeing the screen or the granddaughter? Somebody screen? Okay. All right. And the other opportunity is, so let's take that off a minute. The other opportunity is Treasure Island. Treasure Island used to be a camp that belonged to the Philadelphia Scout Council. Over the years, it has built up a huge reputation for being a beloved property, but it flooded too many times, and the council decided that they couldn't afford the upkeep on it. So instead of how are we doing for time? Instead of just sort of leaving it wild, they were able to sell it to a conservation organization, and a group of volunteers put on special weekends where they invite troops to come and do lots of activities. I hadn't heard about the details until my husband came home last Sunday, or he went during the day on Saturday, took the barge across to the island, and he said their kids had a fabulous time. And when he described all the cool stuff that was going on, I thought, oh, maybe we should do that. Logistically, it's a challenge. It's in the Delaware River. It's kind of near New Hope, but I'm not exactly sure how absolutely close to New Hope it is. Let me just do this last thing. Okay, so so the opportunities that I'm offering are lumberjack, which I'd like a decision by Wednesday. And I'll get something out to you. Caving, the winter and rifle shooting weekend, the Copen climbing, the backpacking weekend, the wilderness survival weekend, the Klondike Derby, and Treasure Island. I figure if we put a bunch of things on the calendar, and some of the guys can't come one, they'll catch the next one. And the last thing I'll mention is Troop 1313. And that is, with the exception of the lumberjack games, because it's hosted by a boy troop, so they're not expecting any girls. I would open an invitation to anybody from 1313 who wanted to go. They often invite us to the things that they've planned. But I want it to be contingent on what the boys from 1719 want to do. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring this up now. My main reason for wanting to bring it up is, for those of you who got here after I started, lumberjack games, Friday to Sunday, November 8th to 10th, Fort Washington State Park, which isn't very far. It's hosted by Troop 512, which is my husband's troop. It has lots of competition, so there's an agenda already, and activities already provided. And I think that would be great. So by Wednesday, I would love to hear 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, or 10, or 11 of the scouts from 1719 who would be interested in going to that. And then, of course, we also have to be able to commit. We have to put them on the calendars so that everybody knows when they're happening. We have to arrange transportation, which most of you are able to help with. We need to engage parents. We'd like them to come along and meet our objectives of having a good time, camaraderie, advancement, and other kinds of fun things. So that's basically it. I'm gonna ring off because I have another Zoom to go to, but I wanted to inform you that that's the plan that I'm offering to you and the boys. And so we may talk about it a little bit on Wednesday. I also will send out a message saying that Wednesday, the boys are making sandwiches for the community fridge. So there isn't anything special that they need to bring with them, but we will be making sandwiches. So thank you very much, everybody. And hope to see you on Wednesday. Keep up the good work. I'm loving our growth. Bring more friends. Okay.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks. Good night.